our street.
So, we just moved into a new place. It's a brand new 2024 trailer in a trailer park. We've lived there for a little over a month now, and just recently I've been experiencing some unexplained events. One night, me and my dog were laying on the couch, kind of falling asleep, and all of a sudden we hear a loud crinkling noise coming from the bedroom hallway where the kids sleep. Except my kids were staying the night at my mum's. My dog heard it and jumped up. It was creepy, but I shrugged it off. Then, a few days later, my kids were in bed. It was like 1 a.m. and I heard a voice. Checked on my kids and they were dead asleep. And it just didn't sound like their voice. Again, shrugged it off because maybe sleep talking. The other night, we all had a living room sleepover. So we were all sleeping in the living room. And while everyone else is sleeping, I heard a loud voice saying,
Hello.
from the kids' bedroom hallway. Again. Followed by tapping sounds. Now the next day, I went to check out the kids' bedrooms and stepped on a toy in my kids' room. It was the same voice. However, you need to push a button to make it go off. This is when I'm officially scared and convinced this is not explainable. My fiance then left out of town a couple of days ago with the kids to visit his dad. Last night was the worst night of them all. The bathroom fan next to my son's room turned on. I went and turned it off, started walking away. Then I heard my son's fan in his bedroom turn on, and I ran to my room, got in my bed, and there was banging on the bottom of the bed, so hard that the bed was shaking. My heart started pounding. I called my mum, crying and begging for her to come over. She came over and I left and stayed the night with her. Now, I'm one to look at every logical explanation before thinking of paranormal activity. But there was no explanation for this. This was banging, pounding on the bed really loud. I don't know what to do. My fiance goes out of town for work for 3 months, and I'm too scared to be there alone. I really don't know where to start, so I decided the beginning is always good. My childhood home was built over the old homestead of my great-grandparents, and we eventually added onto the home with an L-shaped addition, and that's when things started. Our 2 dogs refused to go into the addition, which happened to be my and my 2 siblings' bedrooms. They would bite you, and their hair would stand up on their backs if you even tried to carry them back there. A black figure with red eyes would be seen repeatedly. My older brother put an arrow through the wall, trying to shoot the figure. Our CD players were thrown away because of the deep voice that would talk to you through it at night by name. My brother would wake me and tell me half asleep the red eye thing wouldn't let him sleep, so he slept on my floor. My entire childhood, my dad would sleep on the couch until everyone was home because he swears something would sit down on the bed and then lay down beside him. The dryer would turn on repeatedly, even if you unplugged it. Cooking in the kitchen, you would get bruises on the top of your feet, like someone was stepping on them. This is just a generic run-through of some of our experiences in the home. If anyone would like any more in-depth posts, just let me know. I'm sorry, but I'm not that good at telling a story, but I will definitely try to do better. Not gonna lie, just thinking about some of the experiences makes me realize exactly how crazy it was to actually live it even though it seemed normal to us back then. My husband and I sold our house and moved to another home that we were buying from a church. The home was built and owned by a couple from England who had no children. The husband passed away in the house. The wife got dementia and went into a home. They left the house to a church a few doors down. We were pre-approved for the mortgage, but due to the church lawyer messing up the paperwork, delaying our mortgage closing, and our house already being sold, they let us move in prior to the actual purchase. The house had been empty for several months prior to us moving in, but strange things started happening on day one. We live in Virginia, but the day before we moved, I had to leave and go to Massachusetts to help my mother. My sister-in-law, a few nieces and nephews, and my brother-in-law helped my husband and daughter move. My husband, his sister, and brother left the kids and 4 nieces at the house to start unpacking while they went and got another load. While the adults were gone, the girls, ages 8 through 16, were all unpacking my daughter's bedroom. The girls found a Polly Pocket set and decided to play with it for a little bit before the adults got back. All of a sudden, the blinds started going up and down by themselves. This was still happening when the adults got back. Fast forward, everyone leaves. It's just my husband and 2 daughters. The girls go to sleep, reluctantly. My husband does not believe in ghosts or anything supernatural. Our previous house had a friendly haunting, and he always scoffed at me when I would tell him that I saw one of the previous occupants of the house. At any rate, husband goes to bed in our bedroom. He feels like he's being stared at and is very uncomfortable. After about an hour of this, he goes to the living room, moves the furniture in such a way that he is sleeping on the couch in an enclosed space. Think like back in the 1800s, when they would circle the wagons. Furniture placed in a circle with a coffee table and TV in the middle. He called me at 1 a.m., unable to sleep because something was watching him. This goes on every night. I come home a few days later and start to try to complete the unpacking. He goes back to work. I am very uncomfortable in this house. I'm very sensitive to spirits. My every move was being watched. Going to the basement would cause me to be unable to breathe. I tried to get a priest to bless the house, but it was impossible to get someone there in my time frame. I can't get any work done. My son, who wasn't even 1 yet, was very restless in the house. Cranky and needy, and he was previously a very happy baby. Weird things kept happening. Things going missing. Footsteps upstairs when nobody was up there. Blinds moving by themselves. The kitchen door swinging open by itself. That door had to be pushed hard. The last straw was when the doorbell started ringing at 3 a.m. every night. We would get up and answer the door. Of course, nobody was there. Shut the door. As soon as we walk away, the doorbell would ring again. We immediately pulled out of the deal and moved. I never slept so well as I did the first night out of that house. Another couple bought the house about 9 months after we moved. The house was a 2,500 square foot brick house. It was beautiful. It's been 15 years since we lived there. The people that bought it are still adding on to it. It has been under construction for 14 years. All I can think of is the Winchester house, because all of the additions they have done do not match. Thoughts on what might be in that house? I feel like it was demonic, almost like there is a portal or Indian burial ground that got disturbed under that house. My grandma is around 75 years of age. She lives alone and prefers being a recluse. The house she lives in has been the subject of discussion for many moons. Creepy stories, supernatural stuff, and that sort of stuff have always been exchanged during my family gatherings. And my mother and her siblings have tried to get her out of the house and move in with one of us many times, but to no avail. She simply likes to be left alone. So at this point, I'm around 15 years old. My father never let me or my siblings stay away for longer than a day. We saw our grandma at least once a month because my dad enjoys long drives. But we always return by nightfall. So my grandma always complains that she never gets time with us because all of my other cousins stay with her during summer. Mostly because they live nearby and hence have stories about the house. So when I turned 15, my dad had an epiphany. He says it would be good for me and my younger sibling to stay with my grandma for a few days. Now, the stories we have heard are kind of scary, so my younger sister, who is afraid of the dark, wasn't looking forward to it that much. But I convinced her it was all fake, and that if the house was haunted, my grandma wouldn't have been able to live in that place for so long. She is not completely convinced, but she agrees. On the other hand, I was really looking forward to it. I had all the freedom to call my friends at night and nobody would say anything. And when it comes to ghosts, I simply didn't believe they existed. I come from a family of strong theists. I believed in a God who would protect me, and that blind belief rendered me oblivious to supernatural demons and whatnot. So my sister and I go to her place. Now, there are 3 bedrooms in the whole house. One is where my grandma sleeps. It has 2 beds. One is where my grandpa used to sleep. And one is known to be the most haunted room out of all. My grandpa's room had all his stuff on the bed, so my choices were to sleep in grandma's room or the haunted room. I picked the haunted room easily. Not because I was brave, but because it was private and I could talk to my friends all night. My sister said she would sleep with my grandma. The first day was fine. I didn't get much sleep that night. In fact, I slept early in the morning because it was impossible for me to sleep in that room for whatever reason. Now, the thing about that room is the windows are all wooden, so not even a bit of light would get in the morning or at night. On the 3rd day, my sister says she's going to start sleeping with me because my grandma apparently had a creepy habit of walking around the house in the middle of the night. I know, that is a definite red flag. So, the 4th day, the day of the main incident, my sister and I are together in bed. At around 2, I hear the pendulum clock ringing throughout the house. I know my grandma's up because I hear shuffling outside the room. My sister is asleep beside me. It was pitch dark in the room, and I wasn't particularly afraid. I was just randomly thinking about my teenage dramas. I'm pacing upwards, looking into the dark, and one of my hands is hanging out of the bed above my head. Our bed didn't have a headboard, but had a wooden covering on the top and bottom. So I'm in my own head, and my train of thought gets broken by something hitting behind my bed. Like somebody knocked on it once. I freeze, and my mind is racing. So I think it was me. My hand is still hanging back. I must have jerked it unconsciously. So I stay like that, aware of my hands still hanging back. My sister is sleeping beside me. A few seconds later, again, a huge knock. This time, a bit more loudly and strongly. Now guys, at this point, I'm officially scared. I slowly pull my hands down. It was pitch dark, and I couldn't get a single word out of my mouth to call my sister. I pull my hands down and touch my sister's hand and squeeze it. And this is no joke. My sister jerks herself away, doesn't even ask me what's wrong, and starts chanting mantras my dad taught us. I join her, and a few seconds later, a lighter knock sounds behind the bed. This time the both of us hear it. We hug each other, too scared to do anything, and continue praying. When dawn broke and my grandma was officially awake, we switched on the light and checked the entire room for rats or holes that rats can come in. And nothing. There was nothing behind the bed or beneath it. My grandma was a clean freak. There will never be a rat in that house anyways. I go back to bed and fall asleep. We don't say anything to anyone. We called our parents to bring us back, but they weren't home, and my dad told us to buck up. We continued to live in the house, in that room, for a month. In fact, we barely got out of the room. I don't know why. By the end of the month, we got attached to the room and the house. A lot of creepy and scary things followed that week. But Dad said to buck up, so we bucked up. We went back home after a month and told my mum about everything that happened. It was after I left that room and that house that I realized I felt lighter doing so. My aunts, after hearing our stories, screamed at my mum for letting us stay there so long. Apparently, my uncle went crazy in that room. He shut off all the ventilators and made sure no light came in and locked himself in the room for months. My family had to sign him to an asylum. It took years of recovery to get him out of his own head. After that, we never stayed there alone. But that said, my sister and I stopped being afraid of the house after a whole month. When we go back, there's a sort of welcoming vibe. It's like we made peace with the contents of the house, whatever it was. But I will never forget what happened that month. This all took place roughly 10 years ago, and to this day I can remember the events in detail, as if it happened yesterday, and it still gives me the chills. Prior to living in this house, I considered myself to be somewhat of a skeptic when it came to ghosts or paranormal activity. But after living in this house and experiencing the things we did, it's impossible not to believe. At the time, my now ex, then boyfriend, was working away in camp and was home on a rotating schedule. My cousin's boyfriend lived nearby and came over to our place fairly regularly, although he didn't typically spend the night. So for the most part, it was my cousin and I, two females, then early 20s, on our own. Landlord was a bit of a weird dude, and before we moved in, he made us promise him we would not light any candles in the house. We thought it was an odd request, but didn't think much of it. My cousin, Amanda's bedroom, was across from the kitchen, and if you were to stand in her bedroom doorway and look towards the kitchen, you would see the microwave, which would display the time. Amanda liked to wake up in the morning and look at the microwave to see the time. After a couple of weeks of living in the house, Amanda started waking up in the morning and the microwave would be set to 30 seconds, so she couldn't see the time. She found this strange and mentioned it to me. I told her that I had not been setting the microwave to 30 seconds, and together, before bed, we would make sure it was clear, so when we woke up, the time would be displayed. Despite doing this, we would wake up in the morning and again see the microwave would be set to 30 seconds. We assumed it was a glitch and tried not to think much of it. Next was the cat scratching post. The post itself was fairly large and heavy, as it was made by my grandfather out of scrap wood and carpet, and no cat would be able to move the post on their own. The post was against the wall, next to my bedroom, and we began to routinely find the post pulled out from the wall by roughly a foot. At this point, We were starting to feel the bad vibes and a weird energy in the house. That, in combination with the microwave and the post, had us a little shook. The third thing was my fan. I had an old school fan in my bedroom with a knob that you had to physically turn the dial from off to level 1 to 3. The fan began to turn itself on to level 3 and the dial physically turned. This would happen at all times throughout the day. We could be sitting in the living room and then out of nowhere the fan would turn on. I would go turn it off, and by the time I got back to the living room, it would be turned on again. We told my boyfriend, now ex, let's call him Tim, about all the weird stuff going on, and that we were starting to think the house was haunted. He told us we were nuts, and that the house was old and it was likely electrical issues or something like that. Although, he was unable to explain the cat scratching post. Amanda and I tried to accept that explanation, but we noticed the activity would get more intense after Amanda's boyfriend would visit. One night, after he had left, Amanda and I went to bed. We had one of those water coolers that you would fill with large bottles of water, and as you would fill your glass of water from the cooler, it would make loud glub 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 noises as the water from the bottle filled into the cooler to chill. We had run out of water a week or so prior. Once Amanda and I were in our beds trying to sleep, we heard the loudest glub 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 coming from the cooler. I felt a chill run through my body. How the hell did I just hear that? We're out of water. I then heard Amanda call out my name in a very apprehensive manner, as if to say, "Did you just hear that?" In that moment I knew it was more than just the two of us in that house. Tim returned home from camp, and this time he finally experienced something. Amanda and I were at work. We had left around 5:30 a.m, and later that morning I received a text from Tim. He was asking why I had moved the cat post into the washroom. I replied that I hadn't. It was in its normal spot when Amanda and I left for work that morning. I think Tim thought we were messing with him. He refused to believe what was going on. At this time, we had been living in the house a few months, and Tim started to get sick with cold or flu-like symptoms that didn't seem to get better with any time or medication. Despite being sick, he left again for camp, and once away, started to get better. Amanda and I were fully convinced there was an unsettling presence in the house, and we were feeling more uncomfortable by the day. One evening we were just hanging out, and Amanda's boyfriend was over. After he left, Amanda and I were sitting around the island in our kitchen. The laundry room was off the kitchen and had a door that we always kept open. As we were sitting at the island, chatting, we could both feel a presence. So I decided I would try to put a positive spin on things, and decided to say out loud, "Well, whatever it is, it must be friendly because it hasn't harmed us. So we welcome you." As soon as I finished saying this, Amanda's cat made a crazy meow and stared in the direction of the laundry room. And out of nowhere, the door to the laundry room slammed shut so hard it bounced back open. Amanda and I were so terrified, we ran out of the house crying and screaming. We called Amanda's boyfriend and begged him to come back and spend the night. We didn't want to be alone. The next day we went out and purchased sage and saged the house. The vibes still felt off, so not long after we moved out. When we were moving out, we told the landlord about all the stuff that had been happening. He then informed us that the previous tenants moved out due to hearing constant footsteps coming from the attic. We never heard footsteps, but there was definitely something or someone in that house that didn't want people to live there. The landlord never told us why we couldn't burn candles, but after all of those experiences, I would assume it has something to do with that. Hello watchers and listeners, thank you all so much for listening. If you have a story you'd like to share with the channel, please send it to my email, which will be found in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, consider signing up for my Patreon, which you can watch my videos ad-free and usually with bonus stories, as well as other perks depending on the level. This year, I will be redesigning my merch store, so keep an eye out for that one. And as always, the biggest thank you is to all of you. I truly appreciate all of your support over the last couple of years. And remember,
Papa loves you.